Today we have Prateek from Masai School discussing on various models of EdTech, specifically on study now and pay when you earn. These kind of models have been relatively new in the Indian ecosystem, but have always existed overseas. Today, Prateek is going to discuss about the industry that was there in India before this, is there, and probably in the future where is exactly going. So, Prateek, welcome to the show. Uh, Great to have you. Curious to know about how exactly you started off with IITs and then went on finding one of your startups early days when internet was still relatively new, mobile internet was relatively new in India, and how exactly you got on with it, right? Like, so you started Grabhouse in about 2013 or so, and how is the journey from there, and then selling that particular asset to Quicker per se.
Got it. Thanks, Shreyans, for having me here. Uh, yeah, so the journey started back in 2012 when I graduated from IIT Kanpur, and I always wanted to do something on of my own, and that's where I started without going to jobs. I skipped the campus placement and wanted to basically give startup a try. So started Grabhouse at that point of time. It was India's first broker-free platform to connect owner with the potential renters and yeah, so we started it, and for 3 years we were from 2013 till 2016 actually we were running it in, and then we eventually pivoted also to a fully furnished managed home rentals where any bachelors or bachelorettes can basically go over there, and it's more like a plug and play apartment. You don't need to worry about brokers, you don't need to worry about anything else. You just need to go with your suitcase and you can have your home. So that is what we were working on. In November 2016, we were acquired by Quicker. We found like the same synergies in terms of the way we wanted to scale up and the way Quicker vision was. So that's how we got acquired. And then I worked with Quicker for some time, and then eventually after that, I was working in real estate, which is which was not the online real estate, but a traditional real estate. So I was leading the entire business strategy, marketing, sales, and everything in one of the real estate development firm based out of Chennai. So we were building Chennai's largest township and India's second largest township in the center of the city. So I was responsible for the entire township, and it was an amazing journey over there. And then in 2019, I quit that and went to Tanzania, Kenya. Stayed there with Masai Mara tribe. Amazing bunch of folks, and at that point of time, I realized that. Why they consider to be the most strongest tribe of Africa. The reason is that they are not formally educated, but at the same point of time, you know that they are highly skilled. Okay, so from childhood, they know that what they need to do to become successful, and they basically follow that as a passion, and they become highly skilled in that. So that's why they consider to be the most strongest tribe, and that's where. There was news floating around everywhere in media in India that our engineers are not able to write a single line of code. 94% of the engineers, from what I remember, came out in NASSCOM report. So that was a huge problem. At one way, we have 1.5 million engineers coming out, and at the other end, you have companies, those who are struggling to find out really good skilled resources. So I thought that this is something, this is the problem statement that I should basically follow on and start working on it. The reason why I wanted to be in education sector is because in my third year in my college, I did an internship with Teach for India. At that point of time, I saw the real impact happening in low-income municipality schools, where the right kind of people are involved and they are highly passionate about changing the entire education system over there. So that's where I thought that this is possible, but you just need to have the right kind of people involved with you. So that's when I got in touch with Nupul, who is my senior from IIT Kanpur, who is our CTO, and Yogesh, who handle the entire soft skill aspects of the students. And so we got in touch and we formed a team and we started Masai School. So it was launched in June 2019 with our first batch of 12 students, and that's where the journey began. So in a nutshell, I'll tell you about Masai School. Basically, we believe that the entire higher education, the traditional higher education system is completely broken. And every year you'll see that people are coming out taking a huge loan, but they don't know whether they'll be able to repay it back or not. Okay, and at the same point of time, if you'll see, the engineering colleges and universities are churning out people in bulk, but they end up becoming like drivers, delivery executives, and what else? Like apart from core engineering, they are doing everything else, and that is something which is a big reason to worry, that we don't have people coming out those who are highly skilled, and that's where companies are finding it very difficult to basically hire people, despite of the fact that they are willing to pay a really good amount of salary, but we don't have people available. So we thought that the entire higher education system, which is about students betting on institute, that this institute is going to work out for me, and taking that sort of a belief and going ahead with them. Instead of that, the higher education system should be something like where the education system should take a bet on students, and if these students are successful, then only the institute should be successful. So we came up with income share agreement, which is the fundamental way in which income share agreement works is that you don't charge any fees from the student upfront. Okay, when the student will go through the entire course. By the end of the course, if the student start earning above 5 lakhs per annum, then only they pay us fees from their monthly salaries over the period of next 3 years, and it is capped at 3 lakh rupees in total. If they'll not get a job of 5 lakhs per annum, okay, then they don't need to pay us. They don't need to pay us a single amount of penny. So so it's a win-win situation for both students as well as the institute as well as the companies as well, because everyone wanted them to be successful, and that's where the entire chain is going to be successful. So this is what Masai School is doing right now. We graduated 10 batches so far, roughly around 350 students have graduated from Masai School. Our placement percentage is around 92%, with the average package of 6.94 LPA. And we have another, like if we'll talk on Monday, then we'll be having around 1500 odd students studying with us across different learning tracks. So yeah, so the journey has been amazing, and it's highly fulfilling because you see the real impact happening in through Masai School.
Sure. Yeah, I think very interesting story. The fact that you started off with your first startup and then you went to Africa, got the name, I think, Masai from there, I assume, and then you kind of built up Masai School today. 10 batches are going to graduate, right? So together. So that's a very interesting story. So let me just track back and understand. Not a lot of founders are second-time founders in India, right? The first time they find, and then they kind of stick with that, or find some other calling of humanity per se. How is it for you as a second-time founder? What are your learnings from your first startup that you have put in Masai School?
Oh, there are a lot of learnings from the previous startup. Basically, bringing the right kind of people is the most important and fundamental thing, which we tend to basically compromise on when we are going for scale, when we are growing really fast. We tend to basically compromise on that particular aspect, which is the biggest mistake that anyone do. So you need to be 100% sure about the kind of people that you are bringing in. As a job of a CEO, it has been written everywhere as well, but we tend to miss out that half of my time should go, or half of any CEO time should go in basically bringing the right kind of talent in the company, those who are aligned to your value system, and those who are willing to basically go extra mile and work with you to solve that problem, and who are smarter than you as well. So this is something which is there, which everyone knows, but we tend to basically miss out when we are growing. So this is one of the biggest learning which I had from my previous startup. Then again, I think the second important learning that I have is don't try to reinvent the wheel at every place. Okay, so there are going to be times when you need to basically innovate, and that's where you need to innovate. But there are certain things which are already solved. Okay, don't basically go and try to solve it again and try to reinvent the wheel. This is another mistake that people tend to do, and they tend to basically do everything by themselves. Okay, so the third learning which I had from my previous startup was that try to delegate. So as much as possible, and bring the right kind of people for the right kind of job, and basically give them that, and they'll do it. They'll do the job much better than what you can do. You don't need to basically know everything. Okay, you need specialists as well as generalists in the company, who are going to take different roles and basically going to solve that problem. So yeah, these were the learnings from Grabhouse.
Very interesting, right? And part of the reason why Masai School has kind of scaled up so quickly is because of these learnings. And yeah, so we spoke about how Masai School kind of started very you today. But what are the different kinds of products that you have in terms of offering for folks to kind of understand that they can just look up at Masai School and kind of join these particular products per se, and what are the durations for it?
Got it. So first of all, I'll start with who can join Masai School. Okay, so Masai School, anyone who is high school graduate, okay, can join Masai School, and you don't need to basically have any degree or any particular skill set before joining Masai School. So you need to just know a basic high level mathematics, high school level mathematics, or basic aptitude. You need to have basic aptitude to basically join us. The important quality that we look in each and every person is we tend to see if they have a very high motivation to learn and earn. And if you'll see, because of that, till now, the number of students who are studying in Masai School, around 73% of the students are from economic weaker section. Okay, because they have that, they wanted to prove. Okay, so they probably fall behind because of the lack of financial resources and other things, or because of some other challenges that they might have faced. Okay, so giving that equal opportunity to everyone, and basically making sure that they'll become successful. And we have many impact stories like that. People, those who are mechanic and then in the end became a software developer earning 20 LPA or above, or someone who was a cab driver and getting started as a software developer in the fastest growing tech companies. So we have seen all of that, and the reason for that is the kind of people those who enter into Masai School, and it's very, very important. Now, Masai School is a very rigorous and intensive school. We have full-time courses as well as part-time courses. In full-time courses, we follow 996. So the classes run from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week for 30 weeks. Okay, so it's a very long, intensive, and rigorous program. So only people those who are going to survive are the people those who have like that zeal and desire to basically prove something and want to become successful. So that's how the journey has been so far. We were focusing on programming alone. So we had 3 courses. One was full stack web development, where a person will learn front end, back end, and can end up getting a job as full stack developer or front end engineer or back end engineer. Then we had Android developer program, where in the end you'll become you'll get a job as Android developer. And the third one was a part-time program, which was a backend program. So till now we were focusing on that. Now in June we also added design shift into Masai School. So we recently acquired a design focused company, where they focus on basically making, again, an outcome driven institute to make sure that people come out as UI UX designer. So we are slowly transitioning from a coding school to a career school, where anyone, those who have a high motivation to learn and earn, can join us and launch their career. Okay, and they pay us only when they start earning above 5 lakhs per annum. So again, the entire outcome driven institute, but not just in programming, but we are slowly transitioning into a career school.
Oh, pretty awesome. Yeah. So my next question also was regarding design shift, right? To know how exactly the acquisition was. How does it function in Masai School today? Because it's I believe it's your first acquisition per se, right? So is it like independent, or does it you guys work together quite a lot? Could you just talk more about it?
So Design Shift acquisition was a very interesting acquisition. So we were in touch with Sudhir and Preeti since last 1 year. Okay, we were constantly talking, and we built that bond really well, because both of us wanted to solve the same problem. Okay, there was a lot of synergies, and they also wanted to basically solve this problem with the mindset of outcome driven and students focused institute, rather than charging fees upfront and not knowing whether the student is going to be successful or not. So we were in touch, and we were constantly talking about it, and this was a natural, like you can say, the collaboration is quite naturally happened in the month of June, where we thought that let's solve this problem together, let's launch Masai as a career school, and rather than just a coding school. And right now Design Shift is running independently, but the entire Masai School team and Design Shift team works together to make sure that all the learnings that we had in last two or 2.5 years is something we will not make those mistakes again, not reinventing the wheel again over there as well. So making sure that we are all marching forward and focus on all the compounded learning that has happened in last 2.5 years at Masai. So although like for the users, it is a different platform, they can go over there, and it is highly design focused platform where you can apply and you can get into Design Shift, but internally both of them working together. So yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, so I think now that we've got a good idea of what Masai is, we'll shift gears and kind of go on to what exactly the industry is, right? At the end of the day, I think if this industry kind of moves, it's a win for you, and it's a win for most of the students of India, the next learners, if I may call them, right? So we find a lot of these companies that are there in India, and a lot of these companies that are there in the US as well, per se, right? We have Scaler, Pesto. What differentiates Masai when you think of this upskilling sort of a platform for these students, and are there these one or two areas where you kind of want to say to our viewers that this is different that we do from others, and that's what kind of stands us apart?
Got it. So, like, I'll basically, before even going towards the competition, I'll first start with the industry in general. So, roughly, Shreyans, if you'll see, 8.5 million graduates coming out from India every year. Okay, and if you'll see the employability rate, okay, it is still in single digit. Okay, and the reason for that is that people are not getting skilled, or people are not basically getting into the jobs. Okay, whatever they desire. It's a massive problem. Okay, it's a very huge problem. So before looking for the competition per se, I think that all of us are needed in this ecosystem to basically make sure that this entire massive problem is going to be solved. We have barely started thinking about scratching the surface. We have not even scratched the surface. So if you'll see, all of us are needed, and it's not a winner takes all market. If you'll see, the comparison is with the universities. We have over 10,000 accredited universities in India alone. Okay, those who are basically having like students ranging from 3,000 till 20,000, 30,000 students studying over there. So you'll see everyone is needed. All these new age companies, those who are focusing on students' outcome, are needed to basically make sure that our engineers, our graduates are getting the right jobs in the market, and they are going to be successful. Now, what differentiate us from the others? If you'll see, Masai School has always focused around 0 to 1 journey. Okay, so we are not a finishing school. We are not an upskilling school. Okay, we are skill building school where you need to, like, you come from any kind of background, it doesn't matter. Okay, whether you have worked on programming or whether you have used laptop in the past or not, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we start from that level, and then when we make you a successful developer. So it's essentially an education institute. It's not a placement company, or it's not any other thing. So that is a core differentiation from a philosophical level perspective. That if you'll ask me, our competitors, they are education institutes. Okay, they are not the boot camps, those who are there in the market. Boot camps and we are working together to solve this problem. So that's how I look at this problem, and that's how I look at the competition.
Very interesting. I think you pointed out the industry being so wide, and we're just starting off. Yeah, so now that we're just starting off in this particular school 2.0, if I rather say it, it's how exactly do you find the learners saying that, the learning of this particular school is very different from what I learned in a university, or say I would learn in some other crash course that someone else kind of gives in the past, per se. So how exactly is the learning different for them?
So learning is different, and the result of that learning is something which you might have seen. There are many students those who keep on writing that whatever I have learned in Masai School in 2 weeks, I have not learned in 4 years at my college. Okay, so this is something which is clearly evident from the fact that whatever we are doing from a learning perspective, we use a couple of learning frameworks. So to start with, in Masai School, the classes are usually the core concept classes are not more than like 1.5 hours in a day, although we run for 12 hours. Rest of the time you need to do programming. Okay, so you need to do hands-on programming. Roughly around 8 to 9 hours a day is something which is mandatory for you to program. Okay, so it's highly like practical approach rather than a theoretical approach. Okay, that is something which differentiated from the other crash course sites or companies, those who are there in the market, where we don't focus. Like if you see our classes, you will see that there is no PPT or nothing. As soon as the class starts, Visual Studio Code is there and people start coding. So that's how it is. A very different, like the way you work in the companies, okay, the way you work in any of the organization. That's how it is, the learning is structured. Second important thing is that from a learning framework perspective, I think one big or our education system has is that we always believe in spray and pray approach. Okay, so we believe that all these students have the same learning mindset, and everyone is treated equally. Okay, in Masai School, what we follow is mastery based progression. Okay, so the entire curriculum is divided into 6 units. Okay, after every unit and during the unit there are multiple evaluations which happens. Okay, and then we'll know that what are your weakness. Okay, mastered a concept. Okay, then you should not move forward, okay, and learn new concept because you haven't mastered that concept yet. Okay, so it's better that you go back and master that particular concept and then move forward. So so that gives that sort of a confidence to a person that I'm not being pushed like a top. Okay, that not everyone is having the same learning curve. Okay, I might be a slow learner, but I'm learning it and I'm pushing myself and slowly progressing further. So this is something which was missing in the entire education system. The second important thing is we focus a lot on pair programming. Okay, pair programming is something which is very, very essential when you want to create a collaborative learning environment. Okay, and that is something which is again missing everywhere. And in Masai School, you pair up with someone and you code. And this was a technique which was developed in 80s and 90s in Valley, and it has not been used everywhere, but this is something which we use in Masai School. And then apart from that, I think the fundamental change in Masai School is that we never leave our students that whether if they are not successful, we never leave them. Okay, so even after you graduate and you'll not get placed. Okay, so you are constantly working with Masai School. Okay, we have a program called Thrive. Okay, where you are constantly in touch with the curriculum team, and they are daily basically making sure that if you're going for an interview and if you're not getting selected, what are the weaknesses and whether we can work on it and other things. And till the time you get an offer letter, we are there with you. Okay, and then beyond that as well. So I think these are few fundamental things which was lacking in the entire education system in general, that makes us very, very different. And that's why if you'll see the experience of the learners and the way they progress further, by the end of it, if you'll ask anyone, what have you learned in Masai School? So the only answer that you'll get is that we learn how to learn anything. Okay, and that is something which is the most important fundamental way how the tech industry is evolving and how a person needs to be in terms of mindset. So that is something which we teach in Masai School.
Very good, very good. The idea of learning is being changed here, right? So a lot of these folks kind of learn from scratch and then build on. Only if they've mastered a certain set of programs, they go on to the next one. So beyond that, you pointed out that folks get placed really well in most of the fastest growing companies of India. How does that tie-up happen with schools like yours and companies? Do you go and find them? Do they come and find you? And how does the relationship kind of goes with those companies?
Got it. So this is one question which I also keep on asking my team. Okay, so my team is a very nimble team, very lean team. We only have one person in business development till last month. Okay, we now have 2 people in business development team, and we have over 500 partners. Actually, if you'll see the database, it has crossed beyond 700, but 500 active partners that we have. Now, I keep on asking one question, that we are just 2 years old, okay, and we have just graduated few people, okay, and the universities are there since like last 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. They are finding it difficult to call companies to their campuses and hire, okay, versus us, we have only one business development person and we have so many companies, okay, for every particular batch which is getting placed. We don't have enough students to basically serve everyone, okay, and that is the state in which we are in. That's why we are ramping up. So the fundamental thing that I think, Shreyans, we need to understand over here is that companies wanted resources. Okay, companies want resources. If these skill sets are there from the institute and the people, those who are coming out, they have those skill sets. companies will reach out to you rather than you reaching out to them. And that's how it should be. Fundamentally, that's how it should be. And that is what is happening in Masai School. We don't reach out to, we don't do cold calling. Okay. We don't have anyone to do cold calling and reaching out to the companies. Companies reach out to us, and we have enough number of partners for the number of students that are coming out. And on a daily basis, the number is growing. So yeah, that's what it is. We work in a similar fashion, just like how colleges work. We have campus placements. When the batch graduates, day one is allotted to some company, day two is allotted to some company, and they finish the entire process in one day, similar to how the college campus placement works. But the companies reach out to you rather than you reaching out to the companies.
Interesting. Yeah, my theory of asking that question was to understand how exactly you guys have differentiated yourselves from the existing universities that are there, like IITs, NITs, VITs, because they have a whole office and officers set for their directors, who kind of reach out to these companies and they get them on board, versus say a company like yours, right, which is also next generational school, if I can call it. You guys have set out for that. Yeah, that's kind of very interesting to know. So, do you find the increase of the placements being more on this because you're kind of increasing the value that you're providing to companies in only one or two specific areas which the company kind of wants, versus say a vast kind of a generalist which a university kind of not just a student per se?
So in our case, I think the companies, so startup ecosystem is highly connected to each other. Okay, so if one of the company has a very good experience with any institute, then all the other people in their group knows about it, and that is what is happening over here. When the companies are coming in, they have a clear set like job description that they want to basically hire people from, and we tell them that what is the skill set of the batch which is coming out. Okay, so let's say on Monday there is a batch which has Android or Flutter, as a knowledge, and they are coming out. So we don't call companies those who have web requirements. Okay, there are only companies those who have those specific requirements that are coming in. So yeah, like once we'll reach to certain scale, we'll have all kind of people coming out, and then the companies are going to be coming out and they can find out resources for any of their requirements. That is something which is what is going to happen in future. At this point of time, only selected companies are being called upon. We don't have an placement office or sell it as it like as such how it works in institutes, but yes, there's a dedicated team who is working on making sure that the companies have a really good experience when they are coming to Masai School. And that's why we have seen that the repeated like the companies are repeatedly coming. There are some companies those who have like 15-20 Masai alumni is working at the same time. So that's how it happens.
Awesome. So you're providing a great model or a great benchmark for the students, right? Like it's within a few set of months you kind of educate them, you place them really well. What happens after that? 2 years they work in a company, they learn that particular skill set. For example, Flutter course that they've done at Masai, they go back, build apps per se. What happens? Is there any process of relearning? Because I find a lot of these universities in the West, as I've come from, there's this constant learning, lifelong learning that happens, right? So what are the avenues where Masai School or schools like yours are working on for giving these lifelong learnings for students?
Yeah, so we have a very strong alumni community. We have all of them are in touch with us, and we keep on interacting. We keep on doing meetups. We keep on involving them in sessions so that they can speak to the new students, those who are coming in. At the same point of time, I think this is very important that you have highlighted, Shreyans, that constant learning is something which is very, very important. So what we are doing now in Masai School is that in next few weeks or next few months, I think you'll see there is a course which is coming out, which is from transitioning from SDE1 to SDE2. Okay, and our students go into the companies as SDE1s, and now they, like after spending 1.5-2 years, they want to transition to SDE2. So that is a specific course which is coming out from Masai School. First, it is going to be only used by the alumni, and then we'll see the merit from that course, and if we want to basically launch it for the outside public or not, that is something which we'll see. But at this point of time, I think this is one of the most important focus area for us, so that they are constantly evolving and constantly learning.
That's nice. That's sweet. now that we've understood the whole concept of Masai and how students get evaluated, plus how they get rewarded in the end, kind of curious to understand, how does company like yours actually function in terms of don't pay now, study now, and then pay when you start earning, right? Because there are a lot of folks who kind of want to build these avenues or build companies like yours in similar way in other kind of industries in India, where they want to bring out the best of school 2.0 or university 2.0. Because they've been through the same rigor that you mentioned, right? The universities kind of don't add value for those 4 years, and then you kind of have to start from scratch. So how do companies like yours earn at the end of it? How can they run the bus for themselves?
Got it. So I think there are going to be many 2.0 schools which are going to come up in different sectors, different places in next few quarters, and you'll see it has already started happening. So this is the most important element from uplifting the education, like the students, those who are already out there and unemployed. So it's very important. I think fundamentally, if you want to basically go into any particular sector, I think you need to have the team that you will be having should have a great, like, in-depth understanding of the entire sector. Okay, should know what is the exact requirement, how it is going to work out, and what kind of skill set which are needed, and how you are constantly going to evolve. Okay, so like for example, in case of Masai School, okay, we started with a 5-month program. Okay, now it's a 7.5 month program. Whatever skill set we used to teach earlier, it is with every batch, these skill sets are continuously changing. Okay, because we have created a feedback loop with all the hiring partners. Okay, that you are hiring these students, you give us the feedback, what needs to be added into the curriculum. And I think this is something which is missing from the university's perspective. So like someone who has if anyone wants to basically, let's say, start a Masai School kind of a program in digital marketing, or let's say in any of the other domains, okay, so they need to first have a domain expertise really well. They need to bring the right kind of people, those who are highly passionate about teaching rather than their core jobs. And then at the same point of time, you need to have a very high feedback loop with the people, those who are going to hire them, so that they can build the curriculum in collaboration with them. And then they impart practical learning opportunities to the learners rather than having a theoretical knowledge. So cohort-based courses are going to be the future, and some elements of personalization into it is something which is how the model should be. And then in the end, yes, there's a during the time when you're investing on students, I think from a cash flow perspective, you don't have that cash flow. So we were lucky to basically have really good partners in terms of Omidyar, Unitas, India Goshen. They partnered with us, and we have raised a couple of equity rounds. So we are sorted over there. But yes, this is something which is going to be, I think, like, if anyone wants to start it, and they don't have money, so the best way to start it is part-time, where they are doing their own job, and they are teaching students, just like how Design Shift was operating since last 3 years. Okay, so they were working, and then at the same point of time, they were running weekend courses to make designers. And that's the approach that needs to be followed if you really want to create an outcome-driven institute. In the end, there are NBFCs, okay, those who are going to work with you to basically make sure that once the student has an offer letter, they are going to basically give you the upfront amount by deducting the subvention, and they are going to be responsible for collecting the money from the students. So at that point of time, once you place the student, you'll be sorted. Okay, you'll get that money, and then you'll basically use it on a rolling basis. But in the starting, I think the best approach is to go part-time. If you don't have that capital, to go full-time into it, and make sure that the student outcome is something which is going to happen, and then after that you'll be sorted.
Thanks for shedding some inspiration for the next founders per se. I'm kind of curious to understand. So what's next for a company like yours? Like you kind of give domestic internships, but if a country has to go, their bar of getting paid needs to kind of get higher and higher year on year cumulatively. Do you find them helping them out in overseas placements? Do you find them helping them out in kind of developing or starting their own and growing their wealth cumulatively? How does the thinking behind that go in Masai School? How can we uplift the students more and more year on year?
Yeah, so that is something which has already started happening. A couple of our students are working in New York and US based companies right from here. I think COVID played a big role over there. So whatever transitioning we were thinking is going to happen in next 5 years, I think it has all been accelerated, and it is happening right now in front of us. People in US, I think since you have been there and you have lived there, I think you understand is that there's a huge crunch in terms of the skilled resources over there. I think the next thing which is going to happen is, and I don't think that it is very far, where our graduates are cracking the jobs in some of the US based companies, and they are working from India and working remotely and contributing over there remotely. And that is something which is going to happen. And we're doing some pilot with some of the companies based out of US already. And that will increase the, obviously, as you were saying, that increasing their the salary that they were receiving in India as compared to what they are going to get it in US is something which is going to happen automatically once they'll start getting jobs in US based companies or Europe based companies. So I think that is there in the pipeline. A couple of our students have already cracked those roles by themselves, and that's when we got an idea that some of our students are going to basically go over there. So I think the way I see it is, not everyone needs to basically be a part of it, and not everyone can be, because apart from your coding skills, I think your communication skills and other plays a huge role when you are working in a collaborative environment. So remote working is something which needs to be taught in India. Okay, that is something which people believe that going on Zoom and working is something similar to remote working. That's not the case. You need to over communicate. You need to basically learn those aspects. So we have a couple of courses that we are creating for our alumni to basically work in a remote working condition in India, at least to start with. And once we'll see that there are progress happening, then they are basically, there are some people, those who are going to be working in US and Europe-based companies as well.
Very good, very good. Would love to see a lot more of diversity in terms of where they work, how they work as well, which is what is happening as well, right? Speaking of diversity, I'm kind of curious to understand as well, so as I understand, much of the students would eventually come out from these cities or maybe tier 2 cities per se. How does schools like yours, because university is very it's static and cannot move, so students need to go to the universities. How does Masai School go into the rural areas of India, help those kids in that particular skill set, and get them on board with those companies as well? Because I think that is more important when you think of growing the country together. Not just in terms of education, but in also terms of lifestyle that they live, right? So, and education comes first on top of that lifestyle. So how do you plan to do that, or how do companies like yours plan to do that?
You're already doing that, Shyam. So if you'll see, around 60% of our students are from tier 3, 4 cities in India. They come from remote villages and other places. Now, yes, I think the infrastructure is a big issue over there. Most of them don't have like really good laptops to study. They don't have internet connection and other things. So what we did was, basically we came up with a living allowance program. Okay, that is called as Glide in Masai School. So 30% of our batch who is struggling with all these things, okay, they go through, they were given 15,000 as living allowance when they're studying in Masai School. So we don't charge any fees, but we pay 15,000 per month for 7 months to our students, so that they can invest on a couple of things. Okay, so they can invest on their laptop, they can invest on their study desk, they can invest on electricity, they can move to a nearby city where the power outage and other things are not there. So I think you need to come up with innovative solutions around solving this particular problem, because this is a big problem. Okay, and when we have to go deeper and deeper into Bharat, I think this is something which is going to crop up even more. So we came up with Glide, and we also are working in collaboration with some of the companies also provide refurbished laptops for our students. So these are few innovation that needs to happen if we want to remain online completely, and at the same point of time basically serve Bharat. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, would love to see much of the country, working on various problem statements and solving the world's issues or problems. Yeah, now that we've understood the sector, and you've kind of inspired the folks out there, we'll go on and discuss something which is called a lighter note on this channel. And here is not about Masai School or not about the education per se, but just in general about your likings and your dislikings. But much of it's of your likings. It's like a rapid fire, but you can go on and speak about it for 30 seconds or so and say the reasoning for it. So if and I'll start off, which founder have you kind of admired the most and who's inspired you? It can be not just the founder, it can also be, your time in Africa, if they have inspired you, and why have they inspired you to start off this?
Okay, so the founder, if I'll say, there are two founders that inspired me. One is obviously Sachin Bansal. because he is the person to start to bring that startup ecosystem in India. And the second one being my dad. So he's not with me now, but yeah, he inspired me. I think like when I opted out from campus placement in IIT Kanpur, I think he was the only one who was standing by my side. That let him do something. Job, so he'll do sometime. So this is something which is so they both are the inspiration.
Awesome, awesome. Which is the best place to start up today?
I think laptop, Zoom, remote. So best place to start up. Yeah, you don't need to be anywhere. You just need to basically go to the place which is going to ask you, or you don't need to pay rent. You can sit in a hostel, Zoom and laptop, and you start. So that's how it is.
Of all the shows, this is the best answer. Because all of them have mentioned a place per se. Which is the most important with respect to startup of like yours and a stage that you are in, right? Series A, scalability of profits from beginning.
Could you please repeat your question? Sorry.
Like, so which is the most important, right? Scalability of profits.
Scalability.
Awesome. And which other company do you admire the most apart from Masai?
Zerodha. Big fan.
Yeah, for sure. If not edtech, which industry would you have been in?
Agriculture. Agri-tech.
Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure speaking to you, Pratik. I think I've learned a lot personally, and I'm sure our viewers as well would have learned a lot about schools like yours trying to create this whole university school 2.0 and trying to change the whole education landscape of India. Until next time, we speak. Take care and see you then.
Yeah, it was amazing talking to you, Shreyans, and I had a great time. Thank